Hey friends! My name is Desiree, aka Mama Friendly, and I do all sorts of videos on my channel, from cooking videos to planner videos, vlogs, hauls, homeschool videos with a Disney twist, a little bit of everything. So if any of this sounds like fun to you, I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on my YouTube adventure. Today's video is a collab that I'm hosting. I actually invited some of my YouTube friends to join me in this. We're putting together a St. Patrick's Day themed collab. Now, I don't typically celebrate St. Patrick's Day beyond the typical, wearing green and pre-pandemic. I used to get all of my, I used to get my kiddo and my nephews and my friends' kiddos little goodies and whatnot. But it's not something that's deeply rooted in my family culture or anything. I do know some people that celebrate in that way, and I think that that's fantastic. I'm all about a theme, and I love learning about these cultural differences with my friends. That being said, I was a little loose with the parameters, I guess, of this collab. I invited people basically to either share a traditional St. Patrick's Day recipe that they have with their family every year, or maybe they wanted to share treats for the kiddos, or even just feature a green food or ingredient. I decided to go with the latter. So I am going to be making sort of a breakfast brunch type recipe using asparagus, and optionally you can also throw spinach on there, microgreens, etc. to bump up the green factor. Best part is that this also works great as an Easter recipe. So if you're doing some sort of a brunch, get together, potluck type deal, this recipe is a great idea for that as well. The only thing I love more than a theme is a recipe pulling double duty. And remember, this is a collab, and that means that there's a playlist. So once you've seen my video, you should check out the description box below. There's gonna be a link to said playlist so that you can see what all my friends made for their St. Patrick's Day collab as well. Now, without any further ado, let me show you how I made this asparagus, prosciutto, egg tart for breakfast, brunch, lunch, etc. that's completely gluten and dairy free and can very easily be made paleo. Typically in my recipe videos, I like to start out with showing you all of the ingredients that we're going to use, but this recipe has a few different components to it, and so I thought it would be more organized if we just kind of went bit by bit, component by component, as it were. So to start, we're gonna make our crust, and for that, we're gonna need 3 cups of blanched almond flour, 1 egg, a 1/4 cup of arrowroot powder for paleo, or if you're just interested in making it gluten-free, you can do a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil, 2 tablespoons of cold water, and a 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt. We want to preheat our oven to 325 Fahrenheit, and then to make the crust, we're going to combine the almond flour, egg, arrowroot, coconut oil, water, and salt in a bowl, and you can either use a stand mixer or a hand mixer. You want to beat this on medium speed until a loose dough forms. This right here is the perfect texture that we're looking for. You can see that the dough is still a little bit shaggy, but it holds its shape when I kind of squish it together. I've got a glass pan here that's an 11 by 7 if I'm not mistaken. Ideally, you would use a Tart pan so that it can separate and give you that cute little edging on the crust. But I don't have a Tart pan, and I didn't want to buy one just for this recipe. So if you've only got a glass casserole dish, that will work just fine, as evidenced here. I'm just kind of pressing it down onto the bottom, and then I'm also trying to press it up the sides to create as even a crust as I can with the dough. Once I've got it kind of pressed out to my liking, make sure that there's no obvious big lumps or anything. I'm gonna put it into that 325-degree oven, and I'm gonna bake it for 15 minutes or until the crust is golden on the edges. At that point, I want to remove the crust from the oven, and I'm going to actually increase the temperature to 375 for the next step. While the crust is blind baking, we're going to work on the filling. For the filling, you need 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, a pound of asparagus that's trimmed and cut diagonally into 1/2-inch pieces, juice from 1 lemon, 2 cloves of garlic minced. You need 1/3 cup of cashew cream if you want to go fully paleo. I actually have a recipe for cashew cream in my paleo tuna stuffed peppers video. I'll post it in the corner in case you'd like to check that out. If you're not as worried about paleo, you can use any cheese you like, whether it's dairy-free or otherwise. You also need 6 eggs, a 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, 6 ounces of thinly sliced prosciutto, and then alternately you can use a cup of microgreens, you can use a cup of spinach, you can even just use some chives or parsley, whatever you'd like to top it with. So first off, I've got my asparagus, right? I bought it already trimmed because if we know anything about my cooking videos is that my knife skills are garbage. So I just kind of chopped it up roughly into bite-sized pieces. I put a tablespoon of olive oil in a skillet over medium-high heat, and I'm adding the asparagus and a 1/2 teaspoon of the lemon juice. I'm going to saute this for about 3 minutes. Then I'm going to add in the garlic. I always add too much, but I don't think there's any such thing really as too much garlic. I'm going to continue cooking this for another couple of minutes or until the asparagus is crisp tender. So this is what the crust looks like once it's out of the oven. And again, we're turning the temperature up now to 375. If you're using the cashew cream, now is when you would spread it at the bottom of the crust. I'm opting instead to use Follow Your Heart Parmesan and Follow Your Heart blue cheese. These are 2 of my favorite dairy-free cheeses, and I thought that they might go well with the strong flavors of the asparagus and the prosciutto. So I'm just putting them at the bottom of the crust. Then I'm going to put the asparagus on top of that. It's important to try to make it as even as possible because however it kind of ends up now is how the finished product is going to look. So once I've got that to my liking, I'm going to take the 6 eggs and I'm going to gently crack them on top of the asparagus. We're going to actually bake the eggs in the oven now, and that's what's going to make this whole tart come together. So we're gently cracking the eggs on top, space them out to create your 6 servings. And we're going to sprinkle salt and pepper before putting everything in the oven to bake for 10 to 12 minutes, just until the egg whites are set and the yolks are still soft. Now, I love a runny, soft egg yolk, but 12 minutes was not enough in my oven to get the whites cooked to where I wanted them. So I believe I actually ended up doing 14 minutes. So feel free to cook it even longer if you'd like. This is all to your taste. In the meantime, I've got the prosciutto here. I'm peeling each individual piece of plastic off all of the slices. This is so annoying that they have it come this way, but it's fine. I'm just gonna slice it up into ribbons because once the whole thing comes out of the oven, we're gonna kind of sprinkle this on top before serving. As I mentioned earlier, you can also top it with microgreens. You can top it with some wilted spinach, some more herbs like chives or parsley. That would add incredible flavor, any one of these additions, and it would also boost the green, right? Because this is a St. Patrick's Day video, so that would make it very, very green, very much on theme, but of course, totally optional. Just whatever you think is best, whatever your family is going to enjoy, go with that. So here's the final product. The asparagus with the prosciutto was absolutely delicious. Those runny egg yolks really made everything super rich and luscious. And that crust, that might be my new favorite crust recipe. I think I might even try to make like a chicken pot pie with this crust. So good. Now, I probably could have waited to cut it a little bit and it might have been, I don't know, more set, certainly not as messy. But let me tell you guys, what it did not have in looks, it fully made up for in flavor and texture. This was absolutely delicious. All right, friends, that's gonna do it for my asparagus breakfast tart recipe. I'm curious to see how it turns out with the cashew cream. I don't think I'd necessarily use the blue cheese again because it was a very overpowering flavor. It balanced well with the asparagus, but I think without it, the asparagus and the prosciutto really would have sung a bit more, you know? And that's something that I really love about a recipe like this, is that you can really go wild with the changes. So you can use a different kind of cheese or no cheese at all. You could use a different kind of ham, although I think the prosciutto plays really well with the asparagus. You could top it off with those microgreens or with the spinach or whatever else you'd like. Maybe you could finish it off with a drizzle of like balsamic vinegar or something. There's so many different places you can take this super basic, like base recipe. Basic, base, you know what I mean. I like to let you guys know always how a recipe does as leftovers. I tend to have a lot of leftovers because nobody else in my household really eats straight paleo. And I will say, if I'm being completely honest, this is not a great recipe for the next day. Eggs reheated or even cold, because I tried it cold, not my favorite. So I do suggest, it's only 6 servings, 4 really if you have bigger appetites. But yeah, I would not necessarily keep this to the next day. You can, however, prepare it the day before up until the egg part. Just crack the eggs on top before you stick it in the oven right before you want to serve. And that way you have things ready to go the day before, so that it's one less thing on your plate, so to speak, if you're hosting an event of some sort. If you decide to try this recipe yourself, I would love for you to come back and let me know how it turns out for you. I'd especially love to hear of what little changes you make to it to make it your own. And now that you've watched my video, I hope that you'll go and check out that playlist to see what all my friends made too. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope that you will please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you would subscribe and click that notification bell, because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye!